This meeting.
Welcome to the Oracle Class 315, yet even more stories from the Secret City. This is February the 9th, 2026. Good morning, folks. Can you see my screen all right?
Yes.
All right, very good. I want to point out to you that on these three sessions that we have coming up, today I'm going to give a presentation about the Oak Ridge future that will focus on the various nuclear related companies that are coming to town. And obviously, as I always do, I want to entertain any questions that you have. It's a much better presentation for me if I'm interacting with you than it is if I'm just dumping information I've prepared. So I want you to not hesitate anytime in the presentation, although I know it looks formal. I'm using PowerPoint and all that, but if you'll just interrupt me any way you can with your voice or get my attention, I'll try to watch the chat as well. And I would love to interact with you as much as I can. Now, next week, I have Dennis Aislinger coming. Now, Dennis is going to talk about Roane County in the 19th century. And he's going to bring information to you about such things as ferry boats that were running across the various rivers all around the Roane County area. So that's where our focus will be next Monday. Now remember, just because I bring these guests on and they talk about particular subject areas, you can always insert questions about what you would like me to focus on, and I'll do that. Then the last day on the 23rd, I have Alan Lowe and Matt Mullins coming from the American Museum of Science and Energy. And also, we're going to give an update on a rejuvenated oral history program that's being started back as we speak. And obviously, I'm going to be asking you to participate in that oral history program in any way that you can and want to. All right, I think I've let everyone in that's showed me they needed in. All right, one more thing. That's that one. Now let's do. I want you to give me ideas of what you'd like to have included in the next session that we have coming up. So don't ever stop. You know how to get a hold of me. Any way you can will be fine. And I'll try to include any questions or responses to anything that you have. Is there any discussion before we get started on the Oak Ridge future and the nuclear companies? Any burning question you have or interaction you want to have with me before we start?
I don't know about others, but I lost what you were sharing.
Oh, I took it down.
Okay, I didn't know if you did that on purpose.
I did. I'm going to bring the PowerPoint back up.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? If not, we're ready to go. Tie a knot in your rope and hang on. All right, let's see if I can get it started again. This time I want this one. Let's see if it happens. Now, I hope you're seeing two people in the room. Wait just a minute. Let me get these folks in. All right, got them in. I hope you're seeing a slide that says Oak Ridge Future and presented today on February the 9th. Somebody tell me yes if you're seeing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much. Now, I don't need to go over this, but to briefly tell you that I've been in Oak Ridge 55 years. I'm a Vietnam veteran and historian, retired as Y12's historian, city historian, commissioner for the I might ask you to mute yourself if you're making all that racket. If I have to hunt you down, I will, but I don't want you to keep shuffling papers here while I'm trying to talk. That's amazing. I've got caption on. Are you seeing that closed caption?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I learn something every day, don't I? I don't have a clue how I did that. All right. I want to tell you that of all of the trips I've made to Europe, my most significant one was when I got to go to Omaha Beach, the American Cemetery. I got there, and this lady that was in charge said she wanted a veteran to lay a wreath at the bottom of the monument there. So I volunteered. Two others did too. So the three of us laid the wreath. Then she said, any other veterans in the audience, come up and let us recognize you. About 20 other people came up. They said, thank you for your service, all the standard stuff. And when they got through, the man standing next to me just turned to me and said, welcome home. Now, that's a dead giveaway. He's a Vietnam vet. We didn't get welcome home. I didn't even wear my uniform when I came home. So I turned to him and I said, when were you in country? He said 1968 and 69. Now, that's when I was there. When he said that, two other men standing right beside us at the same time said, I was there in 68 and 69. So you had four Vietnam veterans standing there looking at one another. We didn't talk. We just had a few seconds together. Fanny, when we got back to the ship that night, Fanny was looking at her pictures and she'd made a picture of the four of us standing there under that monument. Now, that's a highlight, folks, of all of my European travels. Now, I'm not going to let you watch that. I'll remind you that Lee Redinger, a retired professor at University of Tennessee, asked me to teach a course with him on the Manhattan Project several years ago. And when I did, I told stories. He taught the class. I told him, you've got enough material here for a book. He said, well, when I retire, we'll write it. So he put a group together, William Bugg, Al Echabus, Lee, and myself, and we've written the book, Critical Connections. What I think you'll find it is the best reference document that there is about the interaction between the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, Y12, K25, City of Oak Ridge, and the University of Tennessee. So if you're interested, there's the book. Now let's talk about these new companies coming into town. This is the East Tennessee Technology Park as it looks today. All of the uranium enrichment facilities are gone. It's a very good industrial park, and it is being well utilized. And it's the majority of what I show you today is going to be located in that Heritage Center and Horizon Center at near the old K25 site. Now, there are some others, and I often point out to folks that one of them is the Type 1 Energy company that's located at Bull Run Steam Plant. And it's going to, I saw just yesterday, it's being touted as going to produce the first fusion, working, economically feasible fusion energy in the world. Now, there will be people who will tell you that ITER in France is where you're likely to see the first results of workable fusion. We'll see. That's an interesting competition that we have there. And Oak Ridge is right in the middle of both of them because the Oak Ridge National Laboratory has a huge role in the ITER project in France. And in fact, I'm fortunate enough that when they bring people in from France or from Europe that are working there, they often call me and ask me to give them a history tour and want me to take them in to see the graphite reactor. So I'm glad to stay in connection with them and be aware of what's going on there in France. It's a huge deal. But back to the old K-25 site, and we'll also talk about uh, some of the others around there, like especially in the Horizon site. But I want you to see some of these companies that are coming into town. So, oh, by the way, this is General Groves' grandson, Dick Groves, and he asked me to give him a tour when he was here last, and I did. I took him out to the William J. Wilcox Jr. K-25 Interpretive Center, which is in the background there. And by the way, this presentation is going to include an introduction to that interpretive center. If you've not been out there, you need to go. And I'm also going to give you some insights into a new museum that we have in Oak Ridge that's just been opened within the last 6 to 8 months at the Pollard Auditorium. So those will be introductions to, and we will eventually get to those nuclear companies. But this is uh, and I'm glad to say Gordon Fee had the idea that we should name this facility for Bill Wilcox. Bill Wilcox was a young chemist that was hired in 1943. He actually was the person that processed the first shipment of uranium that went to Los Alamos. And later on, he became the technical director for both the K-25 gaseous diffusion plant and the Y-12 nuclear weapons plant at that time. And then finally, he was selected as the first historian for the city of Oak Ridge. And I'm proud that I wrote that recommendation to the city and got him selected as a historian. And he served as the historian up until he passed away in 2013. And then 2 years later, in 2015, they asked me to become the historian, and I'm proud to continue to be serving in that role today. This is when the ribbon was cut to open the facility there at the Interpretive Center, and the man cutting the ribbon is Bill Wilcox Jr. He's Bill's son, and he's been a good supporter of things in Oak Ridge, and so he supports our bow tie award that we have with the Aid for Distressed Families of Appalachian Counties. Bill, his dad, created that award, and I was the one he selected for the first to be the first recipient of the award, and then he passed away before we actually had the ceremony. But then we have continued to do that each year since. And Bill Wilcox, his son, comes to each of those events and supports that financially very well.
Center in Oak Ridge, the William J. Wilcox Jr. K-25 Interpretive Center allows visitors to learn more about the K-25 plant and provides an overlook of where the building once stood. 10 News Anderson County reporter Emily Crabtree was at the center's grand opening today and has more. Today, ribbon cutting was held at the William J. Wilcox Interpretive Center on the K-25 Heritage Site in honor of the history that happens here on the property, but also in honor of the man who it's named after.
Bill was a good friend of mine. He was the first historian for the city of Oak Ridge, and he had the dream of how to interpret the K-25 gaseous diffusion plant. And I believe he would be very proud of what we've done here today.
The William J. Wilcox K-25 Interpretive Center is the latest addition to the K-25 Heritage Site.
This is the area where you can look upon the K-25 gaseous diffusion plant that was decommissioned and taken down. At one time, it was the largest building in the world.
The center provides a space for events and gatherings, but upstairs it allows for people to step into the past.
This building gives you the experience of actually seeing where that K-25 building was.
And that's something that you can't see from the History Center. You can see pictures, but the real thing is here.
And even though many locals know the history of K-25 and its role in nuclear production, they say it's important to have museums and buildings like this in order to keep the history alive.
I still learn more today about what we did in the past, but those things that we did in the past contribute so much to what we do now. We can learn from our past, build on that, and I'm just really proud to be an Oak Ridger.
If you're looking to come and enjoy the Wilcox Interpretive Center, you can find it right next to the K-25 History Center on the K-25 property. Now, their hours are from 9 to 5 every single day, so come on and enjoy the history that it has to offer. Reporting in Oak.
Now, were you able to hear that sound all right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, very good. We're doing fine then. This is a drone shot of the area when actually the interpretive center was under construction, but it gives you an idea of what the site looks like with the K-25 footprint laying in there and the interpretive center here, and of course the history center is down in the lower right. This is a model that's up there in the history or the interpretive center, and I think I'm going to show you a little bit of what the model does. We won't watch all of this, but I want you to see the video that's associated with getting a perception of the size of the facility and what was included in it. And I want to tell you while we're watching this, that we're also working with the folks at the Y-12 Training Center, the Oak Ridge. I can never get this thing exactly right. The Oak Ridge Enhanced Technology and Training Center. I got it. All right. And they're going to create for us some augmented reality. In other words, while you're up there in that platform, you'll be able to either look at your iPhone or put on some glasses. I think they want you to put some on. And when you do that, you'll be able to see the actual footprint out there, but imposed on that footprint in the augmented reality, you'll see the actual size of the building, an actual image of what the building looked like when it was there. So I'm anxious for them to get that completed so we can add that to our experience out there. That's the image of what it looks like. I took that standing at the window, just looking out at the footprint. And there's more to be done. They're still working on some of the area. There'll be some wayside markers that'll be put up by the national park, and there will be access to the footprint at some point in the not too distant future. So they're finishing everything up and getting it ready. I can't go by without telling you about this train that's out there now, this railroad car. This was used to carry a miniature submarine named the Steelhead to carry it out to Idaho for testing. And now the railroad car is still there. So we want to move that to get it over near Portal 4. And we're going to be opening Portal 4 to the public within the next few weeks. And we want some of these cars to be there for display. And this will be one of them, the one that was used to take a miniature submarine made here in Oak Ridge out to Idaho. Now, let's skip real quick to the Museum of Radiation and Radioactivity. This is in the Pollard, in the area near the lobby area, near the Pollard Auditorium of Oak Ridge Associated Universities. And it is a really good museum that was collected. The artifacts in it was collected by one man, Paul Frank. Over his career at Oak Ridge Associated Universities, he became known worldwide as a collector of artifacts associated with, excuse me, artifacts associated with radiation and radioactivity. So he collected that, and for many years, it was located over in the South Campus of ORAU, and it was behind a limited area, so it was not accessible to the public. And they're making, thanks to Pam Boney, they're making huge efforts to be sure we can get that out and make it available to the public. And they even give me access so that I can take tours in there. And the American Museum of Science and Energy is going to be in partnership with ORAU, is going to be staffing that. The Manhattan Project National Historical Park are holding tours once a month where they take people through the museum. I'm just going to show you some examples of the kind of things that are in there and the display that's available. Ooh, it didn't take me long, did it? Now I'm going to jump and talk about what Chris Wright had to say. I just wanted you to be aware of that museum and know that it's there and can be seen. And he came one of the first stops. I don't think it was the first, but very near when he was first appointed, he came and challenged us to be a part of the Project 2.0, Manhattan Project 2.0. So when he came and asked us to do that, I saw right away that there was an opportunity for us here in Oak Ridge that was going to be very, very unique. Of course, you know, Governor Lee also saw that opportunity and put first 60 million, then later 10 more million. Now he's talking about putting 25 more million into economic development and primarily in the Oak Ridge area for supporting nuclear. So it's an amazing opportunity that's coming our way. We've got the federal government in support of what we're doing. We've got private industry getting involved in the way that they've never gotten involved before. And we've got folks here in Oak Ridge that know what to do and understand how to take full advantage of this opportunity. I think if only half of the companies that have said they're coming, if only half of them make it, we will still have the largest impact in this area of this region of the nation than we've had since the Manhattan Project right here in Oak Ridge in East Tennessee. Now, this is kind of what it looks like. I mentioned over to the right at Bull Run Steam Plant, that's where Type 1 Energy is now, with the Stellarator design of fusion process for producing electricity. That's going to be there. And then you've got Centrus is located what we all call the old Boeing building, but they're located there and they are producing enriched uranium using centrifuge technology. And they just got a new award just a little while ago. And then we've got ORICL, which is a French company located at the southeast corner of Highway 95 and 58, where the intersection is out near the old wheat community and the K25 site. That ORICL, again, is going to be an enrichment company with centrifuges. Then we've got TriSoX over in Horizon Center that's going to be producing triso fuel, the Halo, high enriched, high energy, low enriched, high assay, low enriched. I'll get it right. And process for producing that fuel. And then right beside them is BWXT, also at the Horizon Center. And they are processing the highly enriched uranium. That's actually what they process, what Y12 produces or gives to them from our reserve that goes into the fuel for the nuclear navy and other national security associated functions that will be done there at BWXT. Then you've got LIS technology, that's lasers. They will be using the laser technology for enriching uranium. And I spoke to them and I said, hey, you guys with lasers, I'd really like to have when they put up the flagpoles at the corners of the K-25 building site. And that footprint, they're going to put flagpoles up at each of the corners. And they'll put banners up on the flagpoles. But I said, I would really like to put a mirror on top of each of those flagpoles and have a laser show that would show the size of the building in the, in the late afternoon, early evening. If you put a little mist up out there, you could see the actual size of the building. He laughed and said, yeah, that can be done. I said, okay, how much would it cost for you to do that? He said, oh, I don't know, about $500. I said, consider it done. I'll pay for it. Build it for me. Well, you wait and see. He won't ever remember that conversation, I'm sure. But eventually, I want to get a laser show out at the K-25 site. Then you've got the Oklo, and Oklo is one that's coming in, and they're going to be located right near the wheat community and going to be running in the area right down by Highway 58. It's actually on the property that was originally intended or recently intended for an airport, but the airport's not going there. And so Oklo's going to get that site. Now, when they do that, they're going to change the route of the Blair Road. And I've talked to the Oklo people and I've said, look, and I've also talked to the state Department of Transportation, the one that's actually changing that road. And I said, when you do that, what they're going to do is they're going to take it where the curve is that you get on the road that goes out to the George Jones Memorial Baptist Church, that greenway there. They're going to take that Blair Road and cut that curve out of it completely and just run it straight on down south into the turnpike. And I said, well, when you do that, you need to be sure you don't bother the foot or the foundation of the old wheat school, which is still there. It's covered up with underbrush now. But you watch me, I'll get that cleared out when they build that road. And I said also, I talked to Oklo about this. I said that would be a good place to put a pull off and some parking area for the greenway, but also to put up some signage to talk about the history of the wheat community. And also, I said you could put a sign up about yourself if you wanted to. Well, they like that idea, and they're going to actually do that. So when they straighten that road out, we're going to get a roadside exhibit of the wheat community, history of the wheat community. And I'm really proud of that. And then we've got Kairos Power, which is located over on the K33 building footprint. And they're going to be producing small modular reactors. And the first one, they're already under construction for the first one. Then you've got nanotechnology, Standard Nuclear, and there's one other one that's not there that I can't think of right this minute, but it's in my presentation, and we'll include it when we get there. I almost got it. Radiant Energy. Yes, Radiant Energy is located in there. Now, the other one I'll talk about is the Clinch River nuclear site, which is Tennessee Valley Authority. It's located there, and they're going to be building 3, maybe 4 small modular reactors on that site. So there's you an overview of where these things are located that are coming into Oak Ridge for the most part. I can't be sure that I catch every one and that I'm keeping up with it. It's happening so quickly. But at any rate, we're keeping up with it as we can. Another view that kind of gives you the perspective for where they're laid out. You see Orano is here at the junction of this is Highway 95 and Highway 58 and 95 coming out of Oak Ridge. And then Triso X is over in the Horizon Center. BWXT is just to the west of where Triso's located. And I'm glad to see they put the Manhattan Project National Historical Park on there. It's pointing to where the Wilcox Interpretive Center and the K-25 History Center is. And then they point out the conservation easement. There are a lot of hiking trails associated with that out there, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about UCOR and the support that they've had over the years, them and the Department of Energy and Environmental Management, in preserving this area, really neat areas out there. And Kairos Power, located at the K33 location, Standard Nuclear here, Tennessee Valley Authority, this is over at the Clinch River nuclear site, and then Oklo located right alongside the K25. I'm sorry, right alongside Highway 58. Okay, that's another perspective that kind of helps you see the layout that we're talking about. Let's talk about Kairos Power. It's building their small modular reactor. This is an artist rendering of what it's going to look like. Again, the Hermes low power demonstration reactor facility is already under construction. And this is what it looks like from the Wilcox Interpretive Center. You can actually look to your left when you're up there, and you'll see the Kairos Power buildings that are being constructed over on the K33 side. This is the construction that's going on. This obviously is a dated photo. It's much further along now than it was then. Now let's see if we can get her to tell us about it.
Partnership, and it's happening right here in our backyard. Kairos Power, the Tennessee Valley Authority, and Google are teaming up to meet America's growing energy needs. It's a first of its kind agreement between a U.S. utility and a nuclear power company. The TVA will buy up to 50 megawatts of electricity from Kairos Power's upcoming Hermes 2 plant in Oak Ridge. The electricity from the advanced nuclear reactor will power Google data centers in Tennessee and Alabama. Hermes 2 will be Kairos's second test reactor in Tennessee, but the first one to actually produce power. For Kairos, this isn't just a milestone, it's a major step forward.
It's the first 50 megawatts of the 500 megawatts total as part of our master plant development agreement with Google. Getting that first unit identified, the Hermes 2 plant, that's a really big deal for Kairos. It allows us to leverage both the construction work we're doing here for Hermes 1 and also leverage that for Hermes 2.
Hermes 2 is expected to begin operating in 2030. Meanwhile, Kairos Power is also teaming up with BWXT to explore new ways to optimize the commercial production of TRISO fuel for Hermes 2 and future advanced reactors. Powerful part.
All right, let's skip now and let's talk about TRISO. You saw one initiative that's going there, and they mentioned the TRISO fuel. So let's see if we can get something said about that.
Tonight, with the Trump administration's push for more American-made nuclear reactors, Oak Ridge has seen a ton of new industry, but not all businesses are building reactors. Anderson County reporter Emily Crabtree spoke with one company that's fueling the nuclear energy. It's no secret the nuclear industry is growing in Oak Ridge, but with so many nuclear reactors popping up, there has to be some way to fuel them, which is why TRISOX is creating the first in the nation fuel fabrication facility.
We're making great progress here in Oak Ridge on land that was previously part of the DOE reservation.
Nuclear company TRISOX is one of many companies making their mark on the K25 heritage site.
And we're investing over $900 million in providing this fuel production capability here in East Tennessee, and it'll generate over 500 jobs with our first facility alone. We're already looking at building a second facility at the same location here in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which will have twice the capacity and have over 1,000 jobs that are brought with that second facility.
Experts say this is a huge step closer to putting the U.S. back on top of the nuclear industry.
East Tennessee is where we're going to realize this and lead the country and then eventually the world in really demonstrating what we can do and X Energy and TriSoX are a key part of that landscape.
TriSoX is also working with a newer form of fuel.
But it's far more efficient and it's far safer of a fuel system. That's allowed for our nuclear reactor design to be a much simpler design with passive safety systems, allowing for modular construction and quicker deployment out into the field.
And they're getting support from others.
Everybody in the industry is very much rooting for X Energy as well as all of the advanced nuclear companies, and just looking for opportunities to accelerate that timescale while not cutting any corners in terms of safety.
For now, the facility will fuel the nation's first commercial scale small modular reactor out of Seadrift, Texas. But the company says they're very excited for what the future holds. Now, I'll send things back to you. TriSoX also says they have awarded a $48 million contract to Clark Construction to build that first facility. They say construction will hopefully begin sometime next month.
All right, that was TriSo. I got a comment in the chat about whether or not I can provide these slides. This is all being recorded and it will be included on YouTube, and I will send a link to every one of you later this week. And so you can get access to it there. Now we're talking about Orano. See if I can get this to work.
The U.S. is watching what's happening right here in Tennessee, right here at Oak Ridge. We have about $15 billion worth of CapEx projects in the queue, over 2,000 jobs. And these are companies that we're talking to right now. It was already happening because of Oak Ridge, but because of Orano's decision to come here, that's really opened up a lot of conversations.
The nuclear renaissance has begun. America is going to lead in that renaissance. There is no conversation in this country that has to do with energy independence, national security, energy dominance that doesn't include nuclear energy. America needs more and new nuclear power. The world needs more and new nuclear power. New nuclear power needs Tennessee and Project Ike in Oak Ridge. Our team members of Orano in this new office are developing the next generation enrichment facility that will provide significant quantity of enriched uranium to fuel not just reactors, but the future, powering new technologies that will define the next century.
Because of what we have with Oak Ridge and with TVA, there is no excuse for us not to lead the way and to really chart that path as how we move forward with SMRs, how we move forward with micro reactors.
We are so very proud that Tennessee continues to play a central role in shaping the future of domestic nuclear energy. This is our opportunity to step up and win for new nuclear, to win for our nation. But it's an opportunity. We need to hit a home run. And I know with the team here today, we will get it done.
Very exciting day for Tennessee. I'm here with the CEO of Orano, who has made an announcement today that they would be making a multi-billion-dollar investment in a project in our state, in enriched uranium, which is a key component, obviously, to the nuclear industry, which is growing in our state. They have made investments and the Nuclear Fund and the Nuclear Advisory Council, all in an effort to attract major industry and nuclear industry. And today that's happened. So we're very grateful for this announcement today. It's exciting for the business.
What makes me excited, it's what I said during my speech. There are so many elements, but first, the executive order for governing promoting nuclear energy was very important for us. The education program that this region has, this is remarkable. I've never seen something like this in other areas in the country, I can tell you. And also, so we have Beauty close by, we have one state community college, Tennessee Tech, and this training program is not only training, so education, and we need more than 300 jobs in there, and very skilled jobs. And we already need a very strong state and a very strong county and a very strong region that can provide this kind of work for us. So for us, we're very big, and certainly I mentioned it, but the role of TVS is crucial.
Whether it's quality of life, access to workforce, education, private educational partners that have been mentioned. Obviously, Oak Ridge is very specific to, nuclear for all the reasons we know in history here. And I think they know, the community knows what that means. And really, at the end of the day, it's just great local partnerships at the local level, the counties and the cities that bring us back every time.
All right. Now remember, you can interrupt me at any time and ask questions. So I'm just continuing to roll unless you stop me. Send it in the chat or just speak up. Looking at BWXT, I want you to know that they built a building out there in an astoundingly short period of time. Now you have to realize they built it with prefabricated concrete slabs, and you'll notice it when we get to it here. But they've done an outstanding job of putting a huge building up quickly. There's the building that they put up in just a matter of weeks. There you go. You can see the concrete slabs that were used to erect the building. And again, I found it astounding how fast they were able to construct this thing. Now let's see what we can do here.
Expanding in an effort to enrich more uranium in the United States. BWXT announced this week it will build a $45 million facility in the Secret City. 10 News Anderson County reporter Emily Crabtree spoke with leaders in the city and in the state about those plans.
We need to start doing more domestic enrichment for nuclear and our capabilities there. So having this operation is just adds another jewel to our crown here in Tennessee.
The nuclear industry in Oak Ridge has seen a lot of growth in recent months. Now, a familiar face is bringing their facilities to the area.
BWXT was crucial for the Manhattan Project back in really when Oak Ridge was established. So it's really cool to see a nice circular nature here of them coming full circle and establishing this presence in Oak Ridge.
The company plans to build its facility in phases with the ultimate goal of recycling and enriching uranium.
BWXT will be constructing a facility to build centrifuges here. And it's really exciting because it's part of the whole ecosystem that we have that is based around our nuclear past and our nuclear future.
Oak Ridge wants to use these partnerships to push for more nuclear power. And the state is hoping to put the country back on top as one of the leading nuclear producers.
We cannot say enough about the state's commitment to nuclear. And, we're going to be a leader, not just in the United States, but in the world.
And that was Emily Crabtree reporting. BWXT says that new facility will bring 60 jobs to Oak Ridge. The company purchased around 96 acres to construct the building. BWXT plans to invest around $45 million to complete that project. Expanding in an effort to enrich more.
All right. Now, the comment that the gentleman made about BWXT being here during the Manhattan Project, I want to talk to him and see what predecessor of the current BWXT was here during the Manhattan Project. I thought I knew them all, but again, I learn something every day, and especially with all these new companies coming in here and getting their relationship to our history is an amazing thing to see and to be a part of. Now I'm switching to ORICL, and you're gonna hear this gentleman here talk to you, and let's see if we can get this going to get some information about ORICL.
ORICL is deploying advanced fission powerhouses with the goal of providing clean, reliable, and affordable energy at scale. Existing nuclear plants already generate large amounts of clean electricity, but they only utilize about 5% of the energy in their fuel. The remaining 95% can be unlocked through recycling. If we were to recycle all the existing used nuclear fuel in the US, that energy content could power the country for over a century with near zero carbon emissions. Recycling used fuel not only minimizes radioactivity, but also reduces the volume of waste that needs disposal. It has the potential to lower energy costs significantly through enhanced fuel availability and efficiency. Fuel recycling technology has been developed and refined over the last several decades, and ORICL is planning to deploy a commercial-scale fuel recycling facility in the US by the early 2030s. To recycle used fuel, the fuel is first transported from existing storage sites to an ORICL recycling facility. Then, it is disassembled and put into a salt bath. An electric current separates the uranium and the transuranic material from the unusable fission products. The fission products are collected from the salt and cast into a solid waste for safe storage. The uranium and transuranic material is collected and remanufactured into new fuel assemblies for use in ORICL's Aurora powerhouses. What was once nuclear waste will now transform how we generate clean, reliable, and affordable energy. ORICL is deploying
gigawatts. ORICL announcing yesterday it's investing nearly $1.7 billion for plans to open a first-of-its-kind nuclear waste recycling facility. The Tennessee site expected to begin production by the 2030s. Joining us now first on CNBC is ORICL CEO Jacob DeWitt. Jake, it's great to have you. This is very technical, so explain to us what this is.
It's exciting to me about nuclear technology because nuclear reactors really only use about 5% or so of the fuel that gets loaded in them in its time in a reactor. And the reason is because you have to have a minimum amount of fuel to keep the reactor running. That means that used fuel that gets discharged from a reactor is actually 90 to 95% like remaining unused fuel. And one of the really exciting things about what we've been at since the beginning of our company has been working on next generation reactors called fast reactors that can actually really efficiently recycle and access that remaining 90 to 95%. What that translates to is effectively taking today's waste inventories, which with recycling and fast reactors have the same amount of energy as about 1.2 to 1.3 trillion barrels of oil. It's insane, right? That's like close to global oil reserves. So massive opportunity to do this.
So the upshot is that we just get a lot more power, which we need.
We get more power, and the cool thing too is it can be done more cost effectively than using fresh fuel because the fuel is kind of already in a good spot to be able to reuse through recycling. So yeah, more power and cheaper, which is pretty top of mind for everybody today.
Are the other nuclear players doing this?
There are a few. This is one of the things that was kind of envisioned by those folks coming out of the Manhattan Project, right? Some of the great minds like Enrico Fermi and others saw this potential to better use fuel by recycling it, by closing the fuel cycle, some people say. And the technology's progressed a lot since then and really kind of culminated in the US to be commercially ready and viable in the 80s and 90s. And so we started partnering up with the national labs back a couple of years ago with the Department of Energy to start commercializing this. And we went through a site selection process and found a wonderful home to put this in East Tennessee. So, I mean, this is going to be, frankly, a game changer for frankly, not just nuclear, but for energy as a whole. And yeah, there are other companies looking at this, which is exciting because the space is so big. When you talk about global oil reserves, that size of an energy market just in the US alone, there's room for a couple of people to be in it for sure.
Yes, so we've been following you and all this incremental news and all these big plans and these steps as you get into the reality of setting up these nuclear reactors. So talk us through the time frame of this combined with everything else that you're doing. I ask you this every time, but I guess that's the key question for investors and also for all of us that are waiting for this power.
Exactly. So, we're moving full speed ahead with getting our first plant built up in Idaho. We have fuel for that plant, which is great. We're one of the only companies that actually has fuel ready for a new build. And that's actually produced, by the way, from this kind of recycling technology, just at a smaller scale that was developed out there. So it's pretty cool. So that will power that first plant. What this recycling announcement is about is actually opening the door for fuel for follow-on plants. So that's one of the biggest bottlenecks to building a lot more power more quickly. So kind of turning waste not just into watts, but waste into gigawatts. This is a huge unlock to be able to do that. So the facility we're investing in here will be able to support several gigawatts of new power plants being built by us from fuel supplies, because that is the bottleneck, as well as taking a multi-pronged approach, working with the enrichers on that side of the equation, as well as some really cool things the United States government is doing to make excess legacy materials available to build more reactors sooner and bring them online faster. So, we're targeting that first plant in Idaho, producing power 2027. There's some recent actions, right, by the government to accelerate things. We're excited about what those are looking like. And we're hopeful that, those are going to lead to, frankly, moving all of these timescales to the left, not just for the first plant, but for more plants after that.
Jacob, just looking at that map again, Idaho, I see Illinois, we're talking Tennessee. Are there running themes that go into site selection?
There are. It's interesting having run this process and talking to a number of states. There's been a lot of enthusiasm, not just about what we're doing here, but just around nuclear as a whole. But there are certain states that are definitely in a position to just lead and have more to bring to bear. And Tennessee is a perfect example of this. Oak Ridge National Lab here is a kind of a stalwart place. I'm actually at, Rome State Community College talking to you guys today on the heels of the announcement yesterday. The workforce, the ecosystem that's here, that's being developed here, is why us, as well as others, have sort of planted roots to build out infrastructure. It's a very attractive state to do this in. But at the end of the day, what we're building is something that's nationwide, and at the end of the day, even bigger than that. And so, it's a great place to start building infrastructure in these states, but we see opportunities in a number of places that span outward. But there are definitely early adopting states that are just going to move faster, like Idaho, like Tennessee, like Ohio, some of those.
Gigawatts.
So before I move on here, let me say that when he was making that presentation or in that interview, he was at Roane State Community College. And I was in a room just down from where he was. We were having lunch with him and some other representatives of his company. And when he came in after that interview, and we were talking during lunch, is when I had the opportunity to talk to him about the potential to build that roadside display as they straightened out Blair Road. And that's when I got the agreement that they're going to do it. Now, immediately, well, not immediately, but a little while after that, we were having the wheat reunion out at the George Jones Memorial Baptist Church. They do that the first Sunday in October each year. So we were going out there, and I sent an email to ORICL and said, look, I would love to have one of your representatives come to this reunion and tell these folks what you're going to do about preserving or displaying the history of the wheat community. I think they would really like to hear that. I got an immediate response saying we'll have someone there. And they did. They flew in a communication specialist that they had. Emily Smith is her name. And when she showed up out at the George Jones Memorial Baptist Church that Sunday afternoon. She looked me up and she said, "Ray, I'm glad to be here, but I've only been on the job 1 week. I don't even know where the location is." And I laughed and I said, "That's okay. Just smile and be friendly. I'll talk about where you're going to be located." But she's very personal, a very sweet young lady. And she made a hit with the people there at Wheat. So we're going to get some good things to happen out of that, I'm sure. Now let's talk about LIS technology. They developed the advanced laser technology used in uranium enrichment. Some of you may even remember back when the experiments were going on between centrifuge technology and laser technology. In fact, in that competition, laser won. But eventually, the centrifuges have been the predominant method for enriching uranium. But they're going to bring something similar to that technology back. And they're going to bring that in with nano nuclear energy, and getting those awards going to be located out at the Heritage Center Industrial Park. And I'm sorry, what happened there? Got to quit that, Ray. I thought I was going to move that down, and I can't. Anyway, the co-founder is Jeff Erkins, 93 years old, and I want you to notice he first demonstrated his device in the early 90s. He's known as the father of laser enrichment. He was sent to Indonesia, a Japanese prison camp, for 3 years when he was just 10 years old. He went back to Holland for his high school diploma, headed to America, went to Berkeley in 1950, studied aeronautical engineer, changed his major to nuclear. When President Eisenhower declassified the nuclear reactor physics in 1953, that's when he realized the atomic bomb saved his life. That's a connection to stop and think about, that he was in that prison camp back during that time. So this is the image that I showed you to start with, and one that you can do a screen grab if you like, and get off of the video that I'll post, so that if you want a copy of it, you can get it. If you can't do anything to get it yourself, let me know and I'll send it to you. And but it shows all of the sites that I'm aware of now that we have coming into Oak Ridge, or already. Some of them, like Centrus and TVA, are already here. And of course, the Bull Run steam plant. This one I think is going to be fun to watch, to see what happens there. And again, this one is the one that shows you the physical location of the various companies coming into town. Oh, I don't know how that got in there. Now let's talk about a new thing that's coming into Oak Ridge. I'm hoping that we're going to have this U.S. Houston submarine sale here by the latter part of this year, somewhere around October, a little later. We're going to locate it in A.K. Bissell Park. It'll be sitting there near the east end of the park, right near Tulane Avenue, just between the municipal building and the Secret City Commemorative Walk. All right, that's the presentation that I had for you. We're approaching 9:30. We've got a few more minutes. I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and we can have a conversation if you'd like to answer any questions that might have been generated by this time that we've spent together. Any questions from anyone?
Yeah, I've got two questions on nuclear fusion.
Okay.
One is, could you briefly summarize what Oak Ridge is contributing?
Wow, what a great question. I can remember when there's a building that has just been torn down at Y12, Alpha 2. I can remember when there was a fusion energy research component of the Oak Ridge National Laboratory located there. And they actually constructed something they called an Elmo Bumpy Torus. And some of you who may have more technical knowledge about fusion than I do would know that how closely that relates to what's being done in France now. And of course, the Oak Ridge National Laboratory has a major leadership role in the creation of ITER. They quit using the full name for it and say that you just use ITER. Okay, I can do that. But those are major contributions for the design of fusion energy. Now, other places around the country are working on this same idea of producing fusion, and they're using various tools and techniques to advance the technology. The problem is they know how to do it, but they don't know how to do it economically enough that you can continue to do it. It is very damaging to the materials that you use in the metals and the magnets and in the containment structures that are created around this plasma. Remember, it has to get much hotter than the sun in order to create that fusion atmosphere that's needed to produce energy. So it is the contribution of Oak Ridge over the years has been major and significant in fusion energy design. Now, what's going on out at the Bull Run Steam Plant by Type 1 Energy is something that's different, and it is controversial. The people who are aware of fusion energy now, I know you're not interested in what I'm doing all that much, but I just spent a week in Israel, and a person that was there with me on the tour was a physicist who has done a significant amount of research in fusion energy. And when I told him about the stellarator intended to be built in Bull Run Steam Plant, he laughed. And he said, "Don't you know that won't work?" And I said, "No, I don't know that. And Type 1 Energy would argue with you about that." Now, it is a very controversial subject when you talk to people who know about the details, scientific details supporting fusion energy research. I think it is amazing that we've got it here in Oak Ridge, and we're going to get to see what they do over the coming months and years. And the same thing with the Oak Ridge National Laboratory managing ITER. Again, Oak Ridge is in the center of fusion in the world. It's one of the most prominent things in fusion energy is the presence of Oak Ridge. I don't know if that answered your question at all, but I tried.
No, that was good. Thank you.
You had a second question.
Well, I just and this is probably nobody has the answer, but is there any estimate as when fusion energy might be
Yeah, I do.
practically feasible?
I do. If fusion energy has been 30 years away all of my career, and I worked 47 years at Y12. I believe fusion energy is 30 years away today. Yeah, you take that and sell it for what it's worth. What's only worth what you paid for it.
I think I get the same answer from everybody I ask.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're right. Anyone else have any other questions they'd like to ask us? Surely there's something brought up.
Ray, I have a question there in the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't watching. Let me look at it. Houston, what the Houston was and why it'll be cited here. Fundamental contribution development of nuclear energy from the U.S. Navy. Oh, wow. That's a good subject for a oral history class. I could talk a long time about it.
Ray, I will say this, that I will say in the movie The Hunt for Red October, that was the Houston that was the one that popped out of the ocean.
Yeah, it is. It's one that was used in the Hunt for Red October. We didn't choose it for that. We just chose it because it was one that was available. But in doing the research about it, it is the submarine that was used in that movie. And it is a nuclear powered submarine, obviously, all of them are. And Oak Ridge, you go back to the story of Admiral Rickover. And by the way, I'm not going to bring it back up, but the two statues that we're going to locate by the submarine sale, one of them is Admiral Rickover, the other one is Alvin Weinberg. And the reason is because Alvin was involved with Rickover over the years. He actually got invited to the launching of the Nautilus. I can't find any evidence that he went, but I do have evidence of an invitation. And Rickover, then a captain, came to Oak Ridge in 1946 and went to the first reactor training school that was held at what was then the Clinton National Laboratory, now the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. Eugene Wigner was teaching that course. And he attended that and he realized that if you make the uranium reactor out of highly enriched uranium, you can make it small enough to go in a submarine. And that is the essence of what got him started thinking about and what eventually turned into the nuclear navy. And then for years, the material to supply the fuel for the submarines and the ships was created at the K-25 site. Now it's being provided from the Y-12 highly enriched uranium storage facility that has all of the nation's highly enriched uranium that's not in a nuclear weapon, a research reactor, or in the Navy's ships and submarines. And then that goes up to Aiken, goes up to phenol, I believe. And anyway, it's process BWXT is involved in providing it to the Navy. So the fuel comes from Y-12, has some processing done in Irwin, Tennessee, and then goes to the Navy. And Rickover, again, saw that possibility, so we want a statue of him. Now, the Oak Ridge High School Wildcat Manufacturing Group is going to produce these statues for us. They're going to use 3D printing to produce life-size statues that can be displayed outdoors. It's going to be one of the first accomplishments like that in the nation. We're not only going to build the statues for Weinberg and Rickover to go by the sale, we're going to build one of Colonel Nichols, Major General Nichols, who really is the father of Oak Ridge, if you stop and think about it. And if you look at the series of historically speaking columns that I've been running for months now. And we want a statue of him. We also want one of Bill Wilcox to go out at the Interpretive Center. And then we have a few others that we may want to build. Once we get that process started, it's going to be amazing how you can generate these statues relatively economical in 3D printing. And the high school is working with the Oak Ridge National Laboratory to create that technology that you can actually build these 3D printed statues. But the Houston was just available to us. I wish there were a connection to Oak Ridge more than just the fact that we provided the fuel, but that's the case. Any other questions you have?
Thank you, Ray.
All right. Well, you're quite
absolutely phenomenal.
Well, I hope
as usual.
I hope you enjoyed what we had to show, and let's see if I can get. I don't know if I can get it up or not. Here, see what happens. Oh, that wasn't what I intended. Any rate, this will be recorded and will be available on YouTube. I'll send an email or have Oracle send an email that will give you the link. And then we'll see you next Monday to talk about Roane County. And again, please let me know anything you'd like for me to address in upcoming sessions. And I'm seriously considering building a full one on the nuclear navy and other things that come out of Oak Ridge, nuclear reactors, nuclear medicine. Stop and think about it. Oak Ridge is the origin for almost all things nuclear. And we're in a unique position for the creation of the nuclear renaissance in Oak Ridge. And remember what I said, if only half of them make it, it's going to be the biggest thing since the Manhattan Project. Hope you have a good day, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.
All right.